Today's episode is brought to you by Microsoft Dragon Copilot, your AI assistant for clinical workflow, which helps to ease administrative burden, automatically document care, streamline workflow, and promote a more focused clinician-patient experience. I know you like that. Learn about how Dragon Copilot can transform the way you work. Visit aka.ms/knock-knock-hi. Again, that's aka.ms/knock-knock-hi.
Knock, knock, hi.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Knock Knock I with me, your host, Dr. Glockenflecken. This is your one-stop shop for all things eyeball related and occasionally some non-eyeball related things. So I'm excited about today because one of my favorite things to talk about is emergency medicine eye stuff. And there's so many topics. That's how I started these Knock Knock Eye episodes was talking about pants patients. You know, the emergencies that require me to put on my pants and come in to see the patient, which is not very often. You know, there's maybe 6 or 7 of them. And so we have a little bit. Here's the agenda for today. Okay. First, match day is right now. We're in this really fun window for everybody where the people that have matched are just waiting. Like there's their name and the program they're attached to is out there. It exists, but they do not have access to it. The main reason for that is because you have a lot of people that did not match, and they are going through one of the most difficult challenges in their career, their early career, which is desperately trying to find a program that will accept them. And so that's a very hard situation. In fact, I made a video about in support of students who don't match. You can look at my YouTube channel and find it. It's the Med Student Goes to Therapy. It's all about a student who did not match and the words of support that I would give to those students. In short, it's it's just one bump in the road, and there are lots of examples of people that have tried again and again and again and still make it. And a career in medicine is long, and if you are dedicated, which we are all dedicated to this field, you know, you have to be dedicated to patient care, to medicine in order to go into this, because it's not easy. And if you don't match, you know, you're at the mercy of the algorithm. All right. And often it has nothing to do with your intelligence, your ability, your work ethic. And so don't let this one weird algorithm driven thing define who you are and who you can be as a physician. One step back, and you'll be stronger for it. And so anyway, go check out that video. I think I made it maybe a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, but I still have people that come to me around match day or that email me, say how much it helped them. And which is awesome. And kind of the point of that video is to just give some support to people who are struggling amidst a lot of people who are celebrating. I can't imagine how hard that would be. So anyway, this is a weird week. It's a trying week. It's a week for also celebration. But it's also a little weird that you learn that you match on Monday and then you can't find out where until Friday. And so I've made videos about that too. But what we do have, and the reason I'm bringing this up, because I think I talked a little bit last week about the match as well, is that we do know some statistics. So let me just a couple things that have jumped out here. And I found these over on Twitter. There are 805 unfilled family medicine spots this year, which is higher than last year. There's also 144 unfilled pediatric spots, which is higher than last year. But the family medicine thing really 805 unfilled spots. That's an extraordinary number. And the fact that it's just every year, it's like getting worse and worse. And honestly, you can go back and forth on what the reasons for this are. Contrary to what some family medicine attendings think, I don't think I'm the cause of that. I that is like one of the only the negative feedback things I've gotten from a portrayal of a specialty is I've had some family medicine docs over the years that have emailed me and be like, I wish you would stop portraying a family medicine physician as this underappreciated, underpaid, exhausted, disheveled person, because it's turning students off from going into family medicine. To that criticism, I say no, because I'm not telling anybody anything they don't already know. It is not going to be a silly comedy video that's going to make someone not want to go into a specialty. People know what they're getting into with family medicine. People go into family medicine because they love family medicine. They want to take care of everybody from birth to old age, birth to death, and the whole gamut of ages and diseases. And they want to be a part of the community. There's so many reasons to want to do primary care, family medicine, and pediatrics. And so maybe I'll give you this. Some of my videos might convince someone that they should do a certain specialty, but I don't think I'm going to. Maybe cardiothoracic surgery. That's the only one, and I've barely ever depicted that specialty. And I'd be fine with that. But I don't buy the family medicine thing, because I portray family medicine as a sympathetic character. And that's the way it should be, because they are overworked and underappreciated. And but honestly, I think with these unfilled family medicine spots, you can't look any further than, well, maybe even two things now. But the whole vaccine issue is one thing, because obviously primary care, pediatrics, they are preventive health is a huge part of what they do. And so all the attacks, all the misinformation, all the vaccine hesitancy around established vaccines like polio, like MMR, come on, honestly, that's probably within the past couple of years driving it a little bit, but also just compensation. I mean, we can say till we're blue in the face that, you don't go into medicine for the money. But you do want to make a decent living as a physician, because you're spending your entire 20s training to do this job. All right, you're behind your peers. You're behind your peers who have been working since they were 22 in their career, rising through the ranks, making more and more money. And not only are you starting your career basically at the age of 30, 31, 32, but you also have multiple $100,000 loan bill to pay for. And so the cost of education is rising every year. Tuition is rising every year. And the compensation for primary care is decreasing every year. Something's got to give. So it does not shock me at all to see these numbers of residency spots going unfilled, because ultimately, yeah, people might love family medicine and want to go into family medicine, but man, it's getting harder and harder to look at these fields and be like, man, look how little people appreciate what we do, because that is a hard job, you guys. Excuse my cursing, but honestly, and it's awful. It's the way we deprioritize family medicine and prioritize surgical care, procedural care. I mean, I'm saying that as an ophthalmologist. Yeah, sure, that goes against my specialty interest, but I recognize that how hard primary care physicians work, and it's just you got to think that compensation is driving a lot of this. And so I don't know how to fix it, but man, it's hard to see. And we're feeling it in certain parts of ophthalmology too. Pediatric ophthalmology is like a crisis. They're all having meetings at conferences about what on earth are we going to do about pediatric ophthalmology. No one wants to go into pediatric ophthalmology. And so I think just peds across the board it's becoming more and more challenging. 805 unfilled family medicine spots, 144 unfilled pediatric spots, higher than last year. Man, That's hard. That does not bode well for just rural communities who rely on family medicine, who rely on pediatrics. My rural medicine character is not an accident. Like, there's a lot of truth to that character who's doing literally everything for that community. What happens when you can't train enough of them, or you disincentivize going into that field so much that it doesn't become economically viable to go that route? So either pay them more, pay them what they're worth, or let's get some free med school going on, because something's got to give, you guys. Something's got to give. All right. Let's see. Why don't we take okay. Oh, I didn't finish telling you what the agenda was for today. So we've already talked about the match day stuff. Congrats to everybody. By the time you hear this episode, you'll, everybody's going to know where they're going, and then gets to be the best part of fourth year of med school, that post-match pre-graduation. That's prime ophthalmology rotation area of med school, guys. That's when we start getting I'll never forget this in residency. As a resident, you get the orthopedic surgeon, the med student who matched an orthopedic surgery, who's like, you know what? I'd love to do an eye rotation. It's like, yeah, okay, buddy. Like, you come in, we'll talk for 30 minutes, and then you can go to the library /home/gym. Whatever you want to do, Mr. Future Orthopedic Surgeon, who's never going to look at an eyeball for the rest of his career. No bones in the eye. I keep reminding people. But anyway, it's a fun couple months for the fourth year med students, and they've earned it. They've earned it. They've been working hard. They match. They're happy. They get to look for housing and just think about their future. So congrats to all of you. All right, let's take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and talk. We'll talk The Pitt, the new show about emergency medicine, The Pitt, and then talk about emergency department eye procedures. Hey, Kristen.
What's that?
I've been grossing you out about these little guys, Demodex mites, for months now.
Yes, you have. Thank you for that.
Well, good news. I have more facts to share with you.
Oh, great.
Yeah. These mites have likely lived with us for millions of years. Passed down through close contact, especially between moms and babies. You know that?
That's very special.
Yeah, they're born, they live, crawl around, and die on your eyelids and in your lash follicles.
That's lovely.
The entire life cycle from egg to adult lasts about 2 to 3 weeks. That whole time, they live right there on your eyelid.
That's making me itchy.
Okay. It is fun to gross you out, but we do all have these. All right. It's really common. It causes a disease when there's an overgrowth of these mites called Demodex blepharitis. Causes the eyelids to get red, itchy, irritated. You get this crustiness to the eyelids.
Mm-hmm.
But I have really good news. This is actually really good news.
Okay.
We have a prescription eye drop for this.
Okay, that does make me feel better.
Visit Mites Love Lids for more information about Demodex blepharitis and ways we can treat it. Again, that's MITESLOVELIDS.com to learn more. All right, we're back. All right, let's talk about the Pitt. So I've heard so many things about the Pitt, some good and some not so good. Really, the not so good from medical professionals about the Pitt is just that it's too realistic. It's too visceral. It just drums up too much like, oh, yeah, I've been in that exact situation. And I get it. Like, why would you want to do that in your job? And then you come home and you want to watch something entertaining, but it's just reminding you about your job. I don't know. And I mentioned this on one of the Knock Knock Hi episodes, but I saw a really good description of this. It's like you want to, and apologies to the person who said this initially. I don't remember who you are, but the ER was for like glorifying emergency medicine, and people attributed it to convincing med students to go into emergency, like it boosted numbers of students choosing emergency medicine. The Pitt's kind of like the opposite. It shows the nitty gritty, the dirty underbelly of emergency medicine, the true nature of emergency medicine being the safety net of society and all the abuse that comes with it, all of the anger, the conflict, the blood, the vomit, the feces, all the things. So it's just a very visceral portrayal of emergency medicine. Well, it's been on my list. I haven't gotten around to watching it yet, but just a couple of days ago, I was looking through the comments again on our YouTube channel at Glockenfleckens. All right, all these episodes are up there. I always look at the comment section. At Joe Sarcero on the most recent episode, where I talked about the wildest eye surgery you've never heard of, which is using a tooth to make a keratoprosthesis, a corneal prosthesis. Anyway, at Joe Sarcero said, "You've probably already been told many times the last week's episode of The Pitt featured a patient who had been hit in the eye with a baseball." Actually, Joe, this is the first time I'd heard about it. "All the gory eyeball procedures were performed by ER docs with no sign of an ophthalmologist. Would appreciate your take." Well, that's all I have to hear. I got on. I haven't watched any of the other episodes, but I did find that scene. And let me tell you, I am excited. This is why I'm excited about this, to talk to you. I'm going to take you through that scene if you haven't seen it and talk about what went right, what went wrong. It's season 1, episode 10. And this, all right. So the reason this is exciting to me is because usually, and this is true for the show ER, which I grew up on. I loved ER. The most you ever saw from an ophthalmologist or from eye stuff in general, you might see an eye chart. You definitely will see a piss poor pen light exam checking the pupils. It's the worst pupil exam you've ever seen in your life. And so I was pumped. I was so excited to see an actual eye problem start to finish. I was just thrilled to death. And so, of course, I came at it skeptically because I've never seen it done well. All right, so here's what happened. Patient comes in, baseball, line drive, like 100 miles per hour. It's a pitcher right to the eye, something I've seen like numerous times. The kid's got a big swollen eye and gets whisked back immediately through the pressure of his father, and there's like a conflict with the front desk and the father about cutting the line, and then the kid shows his swollen eye, and the front desk is like, "Oh, right away, please come back." I'm not sure how true that is, but anyway, makes for good television. And so the kid's sitting there. Here's what happens. So the first time we see him back in a room in the emergency department, he's got a shield on. Love it. Absolutely. You put a shield on if you're concerned about an open globe, which a line drive directly to the eye, yes, you're concerned. Open globe, a rupture is one of those things that can happen. Specifically at the limbus of the cornea and behind the extraocular muscles. Those are the two weakest points of the sclera. So if you're going to have an open globe from a blunt force trauma, it's probably going to be one of those two things. It hits the eye hard enough, the object, that it increases the pressure to a tremendous degree, popping open the eye. Those are the two places you're likely to see that. Right at the limbus of the cornea, the edge of the cornea, where the cornea meets the white part of the eye, the sclera, or behind the extraocular muscles. So yeah, first thing you do, if you're not sure, you put a shield on the eye. You don't want the kid rubbing his eye because you could rub what's inside the eye outside of the eye. And then one thing they did, they gave 4 milligrams of morphine, 4 milligrams of Zofran. Great, perfect. I love it. That's great. That's like in our list of things we do for a possible open globe. You want Zofran. The reason is because the last thing you need is for a patient with an open globe to start vomiting, because that pressure, that intrathoracic pressure extending up into the neck and into the face, they could extrude some of their intraocular contents. All right, then we get to vision testing. they did a decent job with vision testing. All right, they started with, can you see anything? I think they did the hand waving. Can you see like hand motion? There was no hand motion. So then they checked for light perception. And it turns out the kid could only, and out of that eye, could only see light perception. The problem is they didn't cover the good eye before checking light perception for the bad eye. And so it's really hard you always check vision one eye at a time. Cover one eye before you check. But just the fact that they had the right turn, like light perception vision, that's never been done in media. That's great. I love it. So we got light perception vision. And then the nurse asks the doctor there, do you want the portable slit lamp? All right, those exist. We have them in the eye clinic. I can guarantee you that does not exist in any emergency department in the entire world. Those are expensive, and emergency department, they barely have functioning slit lamps. They're not going to have a portable slit lamp. Let me know if you know of an emergency department that has a portable. I will shout them out. I will shout them out the next episode. If you have a portable slit lamp in your emergency department, I will be incredibly impressed. Regardless, it exists. It's a thing, and it would be helpful in these types of situations. I would want to bring mine with me from clinic to see a patient like this, especially if they did not have a slit lamp, a regular slit lamp that the patient could get into in the emergency. So anyway, portable slit lamp. I don't know if we actually see them do it, but and then they proudly, the resident or the intern, I'm not sure who it was, proudly diagnoses a grade 4 hyphema. Okay, so we got a grade 4 hyphema. That is a classic thing that happens in serious blunt force trauma. A grade 4 hyphema basically is the anterior chamber is full of blood, 100%. Almost, and what we call an 8-ball hyphema, which is where not only do you have the front of the eye full of blood, but it's deoxygenated blood, which means there's no circulation of aqueous humor, which means that it's even more severe. So there's one step beyond grade 4. It's like an 8-ball hyphema. So it's black. It does not look red anymore. It looks black inside the eye. Regardless, when you have a grade 4 hyphema, that much blood in the eye, patient's light perception vision, you got to check the eye pressure. And they were on it. They're like, we got to check the eye pressure. Let's check the eye pressure. And then we get a tonal pin sighting, you guys. A tonal pin, an honest to God tonal pin. Now, if this was an actually like accurate depiction of how this would work, the intern would be pushed to tears trying to calibrate this thing. But we can't wait around for that. That might take 15, 20 minutes. So no, they had it. They got it. Put the proparacaine on the eye. Saw him do it. Also did a little fluorescein test as well. So what they did, and this is really smart, before the intern checked the pressure, the attending came in and checked to make sure there was no open globe or no obviously visible open globe. And he did that by putting fluorescein on the eye, and you heard the words negative Seidel. Now, I will say, emergency physicians, they love their Seidel test. That's one of the things that you try to impress us ophthalmologists with, negative Seidel. And it always does impress me. It's great. I love it. Good. You're doing the Seidel. You know what Seidel is. That's just a way to look and see if there's a stream of aqueous fluid coming out of the eye, which would indicate an open globe. And you use fluorescein and a blue light, a cobalt blue light, to determine that. So great. We are doing fantastic. The Pitt is killing it. All right. They get the tone open. They check it. 58. It's 58. They got a high pressure. Now here's where we kind of just a little bit go off the rails, because you got to ask yourself, what is the reason for this 58? Now, I was thinking in the moment as an ophthalmologist, I'm like, you got a grade 4 hyphema. You got all this blood in the front of the eye. It's going to be blocking the drainage system in the eye, causing the pressure to rise. That gives you a 58. So what do you got to do? Well, you got to get rid of the blood. You got to do what's called an anterior chamber washout. You go in with tiny instruments and a needle, and you basically just go, you wash out. You wash out all that all that blood to try to get the pressure down. Which I think I've had to do one time, and it's not easy because a lot of times that blood is coagulated, and so it's hard. You get a big clot, and it's like a last resort type of thing. But with blunt trauma, another thing that it could also be is a retrobulbar hemorrhage. Now, in the Pitt's world, that's the diagnosis they made. There was a grade 4 hyphema, high pressure, but they assumed it was a retrobulbar hemorrhage. Now, when we first see this kid, I was like, there's no proptosis. Like this is not a retrobulbar hemorrhage. Then whenever they're prepping to do the lateral canthotomy, cantholysis, they show it's like a prosthetic. Clearly, they did some fancy makeup work that made it look exactly like a retrobulbar hemorrhage would look. So I don't think they got the right diagnosis based on what the kid looked like when he came in. I think his high pressure would probably be just due to a grade 4 hyphema. But then when they showed the eye up close with all the makeup and everything, they did make it look very convincing for a retrobulbar hemorrhage, which would be there was chemosis, there was swelling of the conjunctiva, and there was also a very clear proptosis. So so let's just suspend a little bit of belief here and say, okay, yes, clearly in this situation, the canthotomy needed to be done. All right, so I would say the best, and I haven't seen it very often, the best depiction of our lateral canthotomy, cantholysis I've ever seen. And this is important too, that the comment on my YouTube channel was there were no ophthalmologists involved here. Like, how accurate is this? All of this would happen without an ophthalmologist. Because you guys, we are at home. And as I've already mentioned, my pants are not on. Now, this is a pants patient. I am putting my pants on to coming in to see a patient, but the patient's got an eye pressure of 60 and he's light perception vision. You can't wait for me to get my ass in the emergency department. You have to do the lateral canthotomy and the inferior cantholysis. And it's hard to do because it's bloody. You can see it. They actually portray it very well. They put the lidocaine in, just a quick little dab of lidocaine, and then you make the first cut, and then it's just bleeding everywhere. All right. That's what's going to happen. It's going to bleed everywhere. So you're going by feel. And they make that point. Noah Wiley, good old John Carter, Dr. Carter makes the excellent point that you go by feel. It's like guitar strings. You just feel that tendon, and then you cut the tendon. And then the last thing that happens that we see is not accurate. It's because what happens, think about anatomically what's happening here with the retrobulbar hemorrhage. You got blood behind the eye that's pushing the eye forward. And what's keeping the eye from just propelling itself further, like out of the orbit, is the fact that you have the eyelids that are holding it back. And so the eyeball is getting squeezed between the blood behind it and the eyelids in front of it. And that's what's causing the pressure to dramatically increase and cause blindness. So what you're doing is you gotta cut off the lower eyelid, sometimes even the upper eyelid. You gotta open up those lids to allow the eye to just relax forward. Except whenever they do this procedure on the Pitt, what do we see the eye do? The eye sinks back into the orbit. That's not what's going to happen. If there's a true retrobulbar hemorrhage, you cut the eyelid off, you do the lateral canthotomy, the eye is going to relax forward because the blood, again, is pushing everything forward. So the eye is going to actually come forward even more before finally, as the blood resolves, as the bleeding stops, it's going to relax back eventually once the swelling goes away. But you're going to see it. And then they check the pressure. The pressure is 18. Overall, I give it like a 90. I give it a solid 90 out of 100. They did phenomenal work with this. A few little ophthalmologist quibbles, but but it's okay. I'm a reasonable person, you guys. I can suspend a little bit of that. I'm not that much of a stickler on these things. So they did a great job. Whoever they got consulting them, they did great work. I wish it was me. No one's ever asked me. I'm kind of hurt by this. No one's ever asked me to be a consultant for a medical TV show. I mean, have they seen my content? That's probably why they haven't done it. Anyway, let's take a break. I'll be right back. All right, I thought we could close this episode out with some other emergency department eye procedures that we do. All right, so we've already talked about lateral canthotomy. We don't need to talk about that one. That's like probably the big, scary one. But occasionally we do other things. So anterior chamber tap and inject. So we will do this in the event of endophthalmitis. So, or with high pressure. Actually, with endophthalmitis, that's an infection in the eye, including the back of the eye. So often we'll do a tap and inject, but in the vitreous for that. Sometimes we'll do a tap, an anterior chamber tap, if there's really high pressure and we need to acutely lower the pressure and eye drops aren't working. In some places you can do, well, really you can't do a laser peripheral iridotomy because the laser is not going to be in the emergency department. So the tap and inject either in the front of the eye for high pressure or back of the eye for taking a piece of the like vitreous fluid, sending it for like gram stain and culture. And then also if you have an infection, endophthalmitis, you take out the fluid and then you inject intravitreal antibiotics. That's hard to say. So that's one procedure we'll do in the emergency department. I've done that a couple times. Another one we'll do is called forced duction testing. This might really sound like the worst when I describe this. So if we're concerned that a patient has extraocular muscle entrapment, there's lots of extras, as ophthalmology. There's a reason we use acronyms for everything, you guys. It gets out of control. But anyway, if you're concerned about extraocular muscle entrapment, kind of like this kid in the Pitt, big blunt trauma, hits the eye real hard, causes an orbital fracture, and then the muscle gets trapped in the orbital fracture. That can cause a lot of problems. We've talked about that. That's a PANTS patient. Extraocular muscle entrapment is a PANTS patient. You got to relieve that traction. You got to get that muscle out of the fracture as quickly as possible, because then you have pieces of the muscle that could kind of die off. But anyway, as part of the testing to figure out could there be extraocular muscle entrapment, you do what's called forced duction testing. So you numb up the eye real good. Sometimes you'll even put lidocaine underneath, like in the subconjunctival space. You just inject a little bit of lidocaine underneath that conjunctiva. Numb the eye up real good. Then you take 2 forceps and you pinch the conjunctiva and you pull the eye in all the different directions to make sure that eye can move where it needs to move. Patients don't like this very much. A lot of times we'll do some sedation for this. Rarely patients can just tolerate this pretty well. It doesn't really bother them. Usually it's kind of like, whoa, what are you doing? What are you doing? Kind of thing. And we do everything we can to make patients comfortable. And it's not usually like a painful experience. It's just like a very strange feeling that someone's moving your eye for you. And so we will move the eye using forced ductions, using these forceps in all the different directions. And if we get like a hard stop, like, oh, I should be moving this eye more, further up than I am, that's a sign that you could have extraocular muscle entrapment and you might need to go to surgery to relieve that. What else? Another procedure we can do, we can glue the cornea. I've done this once before in the emergency department for like a puncture wound on the cornea that was leaking. So it was technically an open globe, but just a small little puncture, like a nail or something. As opposed to, and usually it's like mostly a self-sealing wound. Sometimes you can just get those to close up and heal up just by gluing the opening, the puncture wound. And that would save the patient a lot of time, a trip to the operating room, because you can do this at the slit lamp. And so I'd say it's not really common. Most of the time, patients will get to the operating room for something like this, but in a resource poor environment where you don't have access to an operating room in a timely manner, you can try just putting some cyanoacrylate glue right on the cornea to plug up that open globe. Those are the big ones that come to mind. Obviously, there's like suturing. Like you could use suture eyelids, but emergency department, emergency physicians do that a lot. Eyelids, sometimes they call us in for, specific types of eyelid lacerations, so we'll do that as well. Various boils and furuncles and styes and abscesses, all these things can be done as well. Skin stuff. And so that's probably mostly covers what we do in the emergency department. Generally, we try not to do a whole lot of procedures down there because the eye is a very delicate thing and the ergonomics are real off. They're not very good. I don't know how emergency physicians do so many procedures in the emergency department, because like anytime I have to suture something there, like I feel like maybe I just don't take care enough to set myself up for good ergonomics. Because like my back, I just like throw my back out. It's terrible. Like leaning over, I'm tall. And so it's hard to, I don't know, sometimes the patient's in a weird position, and all the respect in the world for emergency physicians. They have a hard job. And I think the Pitt probably sounds like it portrays them pretty well. Now I'd like to an extreme degree. So I don't think it's like wall-to-wall action. Hopefully it's not, because that's hard to do for like 10 hours or however long their shifts are. But anyway, respect, and respect to the Pitt for giving me some good eyeball stuff to talk about. That's our episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'm your host, Will Flannery. She's not here. There's nobody here with me. Will Flannery, also known as Dr. Glockenflecken. That's me. Thanks to my executive producers, Aaron Corney, Rob Goldman, and Shanti Brooke. Editor, engineers, Jason Portiza. Our music is by Omer Benzvi. Knock Knock High is a human content production. We'll see you next time, everyone.
Knock, knock, goodbye.
Thanks for watching the episode. You can find more on that playlist over there. If you prefer to listen, or you just had your eyes dilated, you can binge full episodes wherever you get your podcasts, or join the party over on Patreon, where you get early access episodes, hang out with us, get lots of exclusive bonus content. Hope you subscribe, leave a comment below. Let us know what you think.